Hi guys, Samantha from Jessima Tutorials here, and today I'm going to show you how to create this necklace, or at least another version of this necklace, which is going to be a slight update on this necklace. So I'm going to show you how to make the faux bone, which is these parts over here. I'm going to show you how to make 3 different types of amber. The donuts are a different type, are one type. The daggers over here are a different type, and these parts are also different. But I have updated this part so it's going to look a little bit more ambery. So this is what we're going to create. So what you're going to need to get started is a bunch of translucents so we can make the darker faux amber, which is actually purposefully burnt clay. So you're going to need some Primo. And now either one of these other ones will work, but you need to have at least 2 translucents. It's better to have as many as you can. Now I'm excluding Kato because its baking temperature is too high at about 150 Celsius. Well, all these other ones are between 130 and 120 Celsius. So it just creates a not such a good effect. So I've got Primo, Cernit, I've got Pardo over here. And I also have some Fimo translucent as well. And we're going to mix all of these together, and because they're different clays, when they burn they will, some of them will go darker, some of them will go redder, and so it will create a different effect. So I have here Primo, Cernit, Pardo and Fimo. Now just remember, don't include Kato because otherwise your bead's going to come out looking somewhat like this, which is an interesting look, but it means that the translucent part over here, which is this kind of ugly white, ugly yellowish color, is the Kato translucent, and this is because I baked it at 160 Celsius, and so that's only about 10 degrees over Kato's regular temperature, but it's between 40 to 30 over the other brands. So the other brands go this horrible black color and the Kato remains this horrible yellow. So it's not that good. So I'm just keeping all of these ones in about the same temperature range. So what we'll do is we'll roll these into sausages so we can put it all together. And actually we're not going to roll it into sausages, I've decided. I'm going to just chop these up into chunks like this, and I'll do the same for all of these. You want to chop it into fairly thick chunks, just like that. And this Fimo's a little bit old, so it's going to come out look a little bit different. And so the more translucents you can get, the better. But basically, if you can't get hold of a bunch of translucents, Primo and one other translucent will work. So whichever other translucent is easiest for you to get hold of. Okay, and then I'm going to try and separate this. The Cernit's pretty soft compared to the others, which is fine. I'm just going to kind of put them all together into one big piece like this, and we'll try to get it to stick all together, and we'll smush it up like this. And don't worry if you get these crumbles, just pick them back up again. There's no specific methodology here. You just want to mix all of these translucents together in a somewhat even fashion. So you want an even distribution of each translucent, and then you'll roll it into a log. And now if you're getting cracks, you want to get those sorted out, so just squish it back together. And this is what we're going to do to make our faux burnt amber. And the reason you want that burnt look is it just creates like a really nice focal piece, and it draws your attention, and it creates a really cool effect as well. Okay, so we've just got those pieces all together like that. I'm just going to fold it into 4 like that, and we'll squish it together again because I want lots of different types of translucents in the same bead. And so we'll roll that back up. And now this, well, I remember because I usually forget when I've made the beads to explain, but this I'm going to bake at 140 Fahrenheit. 140 Celsius, sorry. And that's what I'm going to bake it up at. And that should give us a nice brown appearance to these. So now I'm just going to chop off a small segment, and so you can see it, they're all kind of jumbled up together. It's not very easy to see all of them because most of the translucents are white, but all of the translucents are in there. So what you'll do now is you just squish that together, roll it into a thinner log, and twist. Because you want to get all of those translucents twisting together. Okay, and then I'm going to chop it in half. Stick it on top of each other like this so that we get some of that primo, because it was kind of getting lost in there because all of the translucents don't have the same texture to them. Some of them are harder, some of them are softer, so you'll want to mess with it a little bit to try and get all of the translucents to appear on the outside of your piece. Okay, now just squish that back up again. Just want a mottled effect. Okay, and then I'm going to roll that even, like that. And now we're going to create a dagger shape. So one end needs to be thicker than the other, and then we taper it off. Of course that taper wasn't done very well, this is pretty soft, so I just muck with it a little bit to get it into the right shape. And what you might have to do is you might have to get it into a rough shape that you're fairly happy with, and then before you put it in the oven you pop it in the fridge for a little while and then come back to it and get into the perfect shape before you put it into the oven, which will save sanding. I'm actually going to pinch this end over here because I want it to be fairly sharp. Then I'm going to squish off this end because I don't want this sharp ending, I want it to be kind of rounded. Okay, and then I'll just try to smooth it off. And now it can be flat on the back. I'm not trying to create an entirely round piece. Now I'm using my blade to get it into the right shape, and I'm gently smoothing off the front, trying to get rid of any warps and things because it will save us sanding later on. And what we're going to do is, instead of putting this in the oven, I'm pretty happy with it so I don't need to worry about putting it in the freezer. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring over the heat gun and I'm actually going to set it so that I can move it around without worrying. There we are. And so basically it's an option, so if you were to if you don't have a heat gun you don't have to do that. It just means that it's easier to handle because then you can smooth the back and then put it in the oven. So if you don't have a heat gun, what you want to do is you'd want to mold it onto a tile that you can put into the oven and just do that. But because I had the option of a heat gun, I decided that that was best. So I'm gently going to lift this up and we want to clean up this back just by smoothing it. Because you don't want all of these wrinkles and things like that. And now I'm going to bake this on a piece of paper so that I don't have any shiny spots. So you wouldn't want that. I'm just trying to get rid of fingerprints. There we are. Okay. So now what I'll do is I'll bring over that piece of paper, and it's just plain printing paper. You pop the flat side down, and then you'll pop that into the oven for a full hour at 140 Celsius. And then we'll take it out and we'll see how it looks, and we might need to decrease the temperature a little, we might need to increase the temperature a little, but it's a little bit of trial and error. But basically I like to start at 140 and we'll see how it goes. So I'll make another 2 of those daggers, and I just want to bring over what would happen if you overbaked it. So here are some pieces that were overbaked, and you can see I went all bubbly and horrible. And so you can't really use this as a pendant. I haven't discovered a way to use this as a pendant yet. I'm sure there is a way, but I haven't discovered it yet. But if you do happen to accidentally burn your pieces, there is another use for them if they've got these nice bubbles in them. So I'll just bring over a piece of white, and I'll show you what it looks like. You can use it for some super cool texture. So I'll just, because it has this, it's got a lovely natural texture to it. So you can use it for that if you wanted to. So don't worry if you accidentally burn it, you can always just use it to create a nice, interesting pebbled texture. Like that. Okay, so it creates quite an interesting texture, so you can just use it for that. So I'll create those other 2 daggers, pop them in the oven, and in the meantime we can move on to the amber, the other 2 ambers, and the bone. Okay, so we can move on to the next lot of amber while we are waiting for those to bake. And so what I have here is a sheet of primer and a sheet of powder. And these are 2, we're going to do basically the exact same thing to them, but because one is more translucent than the other, you're going to get a different effect. So we're going to be using alcohol inks, and any orange really will work. Just this orange is a little bit too bright, so I wanted to put in a little bit of this ginger in there so that it will tone down the orange and get it to look a little bit more natural. But you can basically use any orange if you want. So I'll drop a little bit of that ginger on here. I think I'll probably put in about 3 drops. And 3 drops here, and close that up. And then we want more orange than we had ginger, so we want 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Same here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And actually I'll put a little bit more in there. 2 more. So we had 8 on that one. Now you can put on gloves for the next bit, but I'm not too worried about it. You want to mix the alcohol ink together so that it creates this more almost burnt orange look. That's the sort of colour that you want to go for. Okay, and then we'll do the same on this side, and you want to spread the alcohol ink over the sheet because this will help it dry a lot faster. So that then needs to dry before you can mix it into the clay. So that would take around 5 minutes to dry completely till it's about tacky. So we'll wait about 5 minutes and then we can mix it in. Okay, so they're dried. So we're going to mix each one individually because this is going to be used for the daggers because that's the powder, and the primo is going to be used for the donuts. So I'm just going to mix that in, and it's a bit of a messy process, so you can put on gloves, but if you know me, I don't really worry about it all that much. So I'll just mix it in like I am, and I'll do the exact same for the powder, and I'll basically do this by hand until it's thoroughly mixed in because I don't want to get this sort of stuff onto my pasta machine because, well, you don't exactly want this ink all over your pasta machine. It means that you're going to have to spend quite a while cleaning it. So I'll show you what these look like once they've all been mixed together nicely. Okay, so I've mixed them up. Now you can see that they're fairly uneven. I haven't mixed it thoroughly. or mixed it all the way, because I want this banding in it because it makes it look more natural. Now this one will appear to have been mixed less than this one, but that's just because this one appears more white before it's baked. So they've both got the same amount of banding in them, it's just that this one appears more translucent right now. So this is the powder, and so we'll pop that aside, and basically what we'll do with this one is we're just going to create daggers, just like we did before with the ones that we're going to burn. So you create the exact same shape, and you'll create 2 of those, and then you will bake that at Burroughs recommended temperature because you don't want it to burn. So you'll create 2 daggers with that and bake that for a full hour. Now this one we're going to do something a little bit different with. So I'll bring over my tissue blade, I'll just kind of roll that into a ball, and then I'm going to bring over donut mold over here, and I'm going to give a quick spritz in here so that it doesn't go all over the place, and then I'm just going to squish this inside, and then bring over my tissue blade and quickly trim up any excess and keep that over there, and then just smooth off around here. So I want to just get this perfectly donutted, and then I'll pop that out of the mold carefully because I don't want to distort the shape. There we go. Put that aside. And there we are, that's the piece that we want. Now we want to bring over a skewer, and what we're going to do with this is we're actually going to create marks on here. And now you don't want to go deep, you just kind of want to create some scratches and pits on the edges and in some areas, just to give it the look of amber, because amber does have the more raw stuff that hasn't been highly polished and ground and things like that. It does have some pits, and this we will antique later on. So that's enough, you don't want to go overboard of course, and so that would get baked at Burroughs recommended temperature for a full hour, and you'll make 6 of these. And so I'll make that and the 2 daggers, and then we can move on to making the bone. Okay, so we're now going to move on to the faux bone. So I've got 2 colour recipes over here. This is the one where we had 1 part ecru to 2 parts white, and this is the one where we had 1 part ecru to 3 parts white. And this is what we're going to use to create our faux bone. So I'm just going to pop one on top of the other, and I'm going to trim up this excess over here, but you don't need to worry about your lines being too exact. You want them to be a little bit wonky. Okay, then I'll put this through a pasta machine on the thickest setting, like that. Then we'll slice it in half and stack. And then we'll run that through the pasta machine again. And we'll stack again. And we will run it through one more time. And we'll stack. So I'm not sure if the camera can pick that up, but there's very slight lines in the bone, and we only want just enough to almost to not be noticeable, but you don't want to notice that there are lines, but you don't want there to be no lines, because then it won't look good. So they're so fine or so close in colour that you can barely notice them, but if you were to look for lines you would be able to see them. So I'm just going to squish this together now that I've stacked it. I stacked it 4 times once we had rolled it through the setting one last time, and now I'm just busy squaring it up into a block that we can use. I'm just going to get this into a square actually, because we're going to cut off a piece and put that into the donut mold, because we want to make, let's see, 6 donuts and 2 daggers. So there we are. So I'll cut up a bit. So there, hopefully you can see there, if I close it up, hopefully you can see that there's very slight lines in there. So now I'll bring it over that donut mold, and I'll just gently spray inside there. And then smoosh this into that mold. Oops, popped out. Definitely cut off too much. There you go, slice that off. And I'll just roll a quick snake and pop this on so that we can squish it a little bit more, because it's not as nice and compact as I would like. So now swish that into the mold, and remember to smooth off the surface over here, because you want it to be free of fingerprints. There we are. And don't worry about cracks on the back, that's fine. So you can see it, there's some cracks over here. That's perfectly fine. You want those cracks to be there. So now I'm going to bring over my knife, and I'm just going to kind of create more lines, because bone has markings in it, and so I like to create those marks. You don't want to put too many marks in, but you do want some. So there we are. So that's the first one, and so you'll basically do that, and then these ones that I have as an offcut, what I'm going to do with it is I'm just going to get rid of that little bit of orange that's got stuck on there, and I'm going to roll this up just like that, and I'm going to make that into a dagger like we did last time. And now this will be pretty easy to do, so you'll just make one end fairly thick and the other end you'll roll into a taper, just like that. And just remember to pinch off this end. It's a lot easier with this clay because it's not as soft as that other translucent. And just round off the end. I'm trying to get it to stick to the tile so that I can smooth off any fingerprints. There we go. And then I'll bring over my knife again, and I'll just create some scratches. I don't want to go overboard with scratches, but I do want some. You can also use a craft knife if you want. Okay, and I'm just going to smooth some of those cracks because I made them a little bit too deep. There we go. So just create some lines. We can also create some after it's baked possibly as well, if we need to. There we go. So you'll make one more of these, and you'll make 5 more of these, and they'll bake at Primo's recommended temperature for a full hour, and then we will antique them with the amber ones that we have made. Okay, so these are out of the oven. The other ones that we're trying to burn are still in the oven, so I bake these ones first because they're shorter, and so these are the ones that we're going to do. So these are the Primo ones, and so you can see that they have a little bit of colour variation with the streaking in there. You can see that there's a bit of mooning in there, which is excellent. So these ones we'll put aside for the moment. I really want to focus on the powder ones because you can see that it has this waxy residue on the outside, and basically we're going to sand that off. So I'm going to bring over my sanding papers, and I'm going to use the 400 grit. And basically we'll just do what we do with any normal bead. Just start sanding from the lowest grit all the way up to the highest grit, And I will do that with all of my beads over here. And now I'm going to try and get them as polished as possible because we're trying to imitate stones, so the shinier the better. So it's going to take me a while to get these all sanded, but you can see that it's clearing up quite a bit and looks much better, even though I basically only just wiped off the wax layer. We actually still need to get rid of any mumps and things like that. So I'll take my time doing this and I'll show you when it's done. Okay, so I finished sanding the amber beads and I have also brought these out of the oven. So now what we want to do is we just quickly want to tidy these up because some of them have these fringes in the holes over here. So I'm just going to bring over my craft knife and trim that stuff out. And I don't think many of them have it, but basically you want to do that. And if your amber had anything like that, you'd also want to trim that out. And now we are going to antique them. So I'm not going to sand the bone before I antique them, because I'm going to have to sand the antique off, and I want it to kind of get stuck in places where there are fingerprints and things like that, because it leaves a more interesting effect. Let me just show you that quickly, see if I can get a piece. So here we are. So you can see that we have all the scratches and things like I have put in these, but then we've also got these blotchy areas where we've got lots of little bits all sticking out. That's basically where there was a fingerprint and the paint stuck into it. So it's better to not sand your bone beforehand, but the amber, I want it to actually go into specific spots, so I have sanded that first. So I'll just put this aside and we'll only do one at the moment, and then we'll do the same for the others. And so the amber daggers that I have over here, they don't have any purposeful scratches in them, so these ones I don't want to antique, so I'm going to put them aside. So it's only the donuts in the amber that we want to antique, but we want everything in the bone to be antiqued. So I'll just bring over a brush. I just want to show you how nice and shiny that is at the moment. And it makes a big difference once you've sanded it. Okay, so I'm just opening up the paint. And I'm going to get a little bit onto my brush. Put that aside. And then you could wear paint. You could wear gloves at this point, but I'm not going to worry too much about it. I'm going to paint the back and the front. And then just, kind of pop it aside and move on to the next one. And just paint. And I want to keep my fingers like this because I don't like gloves. Just basically that's the only reason. I don't like gloves, and I actually find enjoyment in my hands getting messy. It feels better than being disconnected from stuff. I don't know, I'm weird. Anyway, so this is how you'd antique it. You're just trying to get it worked into all of those little gaps and grooves and things like that. So this one where we put the paint on first, I might go back to it and just skim off a little bit of the paint to get the others. And then you'd put these aside to dry completely, and then we'll use a wet wipe to get rid of the paint. So I'd do that for all of my amber pieces, and I'd also do it for all of my bone pieces. Okay, so pieces have pretty much dried. So I'll bring them over, and I've got a wet wipe over here, and you basically just want to go with it and you want to gently rub off that paint. And don't be too aggressive with it because you don't want to be getting it accidentally out of those holes. But you do want to wipe it clean, especially this one. The bone you can kind of leave little patches if you wanted to give it a more rustic look. And this one I'm going to kind of leave the paint in the hole because I couldn't actually sand that area. So I'll gently wipe off the back too. Okay, so that's what the amber one looks like. It looks really nice. It looks it brings more attention to it. It's not a plain colour, reddish colour anymore. So that's what the amber looks like. Now I'll bring over a bone one to show you what that one's going to look like, because it's going to look a little different. And if for some reason your paint does get wiped away in the scratches and your scratches aren't highlighted enough, you can always go back and re-antique it. There's no problem with that. So you can see the bone looks much better now. It looks much more interesting, and the paint is getting stuck in all of those areas that I didn't sand off. So you can see that we had a fingerprint over here, but it looks nice, I think. If you don't want that, you could always just sand it beforehand. And I am going to give it a little bit of a sand just to make it shiny once we put the Renaissance wax on. But there we are, that's what the bone looks like, and you can give it a final rub. And so you can see this one's a lot more gritty than that one, but I think they both look really nice. So I'll do the same with all of the other ones. Okay, so I've finished wiping away the paint, and so they're a little bit wet at the moment, but not too wet. And so you can see that it makes a big difference when you've added the paint. It just adds that highlight that you need. So these ones are ready to go for Renaissance wax. And so I'll put them aside with the other amber pieces. And for now we are going to sand up these ones. So I'll just bring over my polishing papers like last time. And I will basically just sand them up to my highest grit. And then we can pop Renaissance wax on them. And by then, those other beads should be done in the oven. So, I'll just carry on sanding, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. Okay, so these are all sanded, and now a quick thing, just before I show you these ones. What I decided to do with the bone was I actually wanted a contrast between the bone and the amber. So what I've done is I've sanded the amber up to like my highest grit of sandpaper, so it's got a nice sheen to it. While the bone I've actually left at my 400 to give it more of a matte finish when we're done. And now these have come out of the oven, and I did 3 because sometimes they don't work and sometimes they do work. So you can see that even though these 3 came from the exact same piece and were baked at the exact same temperature, they look quite different. So I'm busy. I don't like this one, it's too yellow. But you can see that depending on what translucence you have, if I went any further with it, this would turn black and this would kind of stay yellow. So I'm debating on these 2. So let's have a look. That one or that one. I think I like that one best. But anyway, so this one now needs to get sanded, and so I'll sand that just the same as I do the rest. But I now also want to show you how to drill these. So I've got a hand drill over here, and this I want to do before I put the Renaissance wax on. And we need quite a thick hole because we're going to be putting leather through this. And what you're going to be doing is you're just simply going to drill into one side, and then you're going to do the same on the other side, and this creates a nice little guide hole. And this is a hand drill. You can buy them on Amazon. They're not too expensive, and I find that they're better than the power drills because you just have more control over what you are doing. So I'll drill in a bit from that side, and I'll go back around to the other side and drill some more from that side until I meet up with the other hole. There we are. And that way you basically drill straight all the time. And then even once you've gone through, you just want to make sure that you hollow out that hole properly. And there we are. Hopefully you can see that. Let me see if I can direct that right for you. I'm not sure if I can get that right. But basically there's a nice clean hole there. And I'll do that for all of the daggers, including the other one. And that's a little bit different for the donuts. What we're going to be doing is we're going to drill from one hole in the donut, and we're going to carefully drill through the donut. like that, and then just carry on drilling through the hole on this side, and then keep your finger placed over here so that you can see where it's coming out, so that if you need to adjust it you can before it pops out. So it's going to pop out there, and just carefully drill through. There we are. Okay, and that's what you would do with all of your donuts, because we want to put the leather cord through here, and we're going to suspend a little bead in this hole. So just go around and clean it up and do that for all of your donuts as well. And then we'll apply the Renaissance wax. Okay, so I finished drilling them and I finished sanding this one. And so now we are ready to put the Renaissance wax on. So here's the Renaissance wax. Now just open that up, and I'm going to bring over an old polishing paper. There we are. I'll just take one of these. Basically apply the Renaissance wax and buff it. And now if you have an electric buffer, this is much better. And usually I'd be doing it right up close to me so I could get nice and fast with it, because you need to get as much friction as you can to get it to work. So I'll do that with all of these beads, and then I'll show you what they look like, and then we can sand, and then we can string them. Okay, so now that they are all sanded and buffed, we are ready to start creating the necklace. So I've already got the design laid out, as you can see, and these are bone beads that I actually got from 5 Mountain Gems, I do believe, and so that's what we're going to be using. Now before we start, I just want to show you how beautiful and shiny this amber is. The translucent really shines up nicely versus, hold on, just get that, versus the bone. So the bone still has a bit of a shine to it, but it's not that really glassy shine. It's more of a natural kind of a satin finish, which is what I want for the bone. And then each of these ones are nice and shiny, and these ones have a nice satin finish to them, and this one's also quite nice and shiny. Now it's a pity that I can't show you. Let me see if I can direct the camera possibly. That's the best I can basically get it, but it really doesn't do justice to how lovely and translucent this is. If you hold it up to a light or hold it up to the sun, it's really translucent and it looks exactly like real amber. So I might have to put a picture in at some point. I'll see if I can get a picture after I finish the tutorial, and so you'll have seen that photo if I was able to get it. But anyway, just know that it really is quite translucent. It's really nice to see. So I'll now bring over to Charlotte crimps, and I'll string my leather through one of the Charlotte crimps, and then I'll take one of the crimps, oops, and I will string that onto the leather, bring it a little way down, and then I'll bring over my flat nose, just got a little something on it, there, and I'll just gently squish that close. You don't want to squish as hard as you would if you were using Acuflex or something like that, because the leather will break. Then bring up your Charlotte crimp, close it around, crimp it closed, bring over a jump ring, and I've opened these up already. Then first part of your clasp, bring over another plier and close up your jump rings. And there we are. Now basically all you have to do is stringing. So you'll take the first bone bead, string it on, and then you'll bring over your amber. And now sometimes the holes aren't large enough, so just keep in mind that you might have to bring over your drill bit and clean out the hole a little bit. So anyway, you'll string it through the first hole like that, then you'll bring it up again, slide on the bone bead, bring it back down, and I like to use my round nose for this because they've got a nice pointy end, and we want to try and direct that, there we go, into the next hole, and then we push that through. So it's a little bit of work to get that right, but basically it looks really cool, I think. So yeah, so that's what you'll do for each of the donuts. And so I'll just carry on stringing and threading my leather through and then putting the beads on until I'm finished. Okay, so I'm almost finished here. I finished stringing everything, but now we just want to attach our clasp. So I'll grab our charlotte crimp again, and actually I just want to trim off this end. There we are. Grab our charlotte crimp, grab a crimp, slide that over, bring over our pliers and gently squish it flat, bring that up, close it over the top, and then crimp flat, and I'm just adjusting it. There we go. Bring over a jump ring, open that up, slide that in, slide our clasp on, and bring over another clasp and close that up. And there we are. So I'll just put that together and I'll bring that over. And here we are. So let me just flip these around, if they'll let me. And there we are. That's what it looks like. So you've probably seen the better photos that I took in my light box, but that's basically what it looks like right now. So I'm really happy with how it looks. These amber pieces are really shiny and really happy with the colour, and overall I'm just really happy with the piece. So I do hope that that tutorial was helpful to you. If it was, please do let me know, as that is always helpful to me. And please do send in photos of your project if you ever do a project using this tutorial, as I really love seeing photos. And you can post them on my Facebook page, post them on some groups and tag me, or you can even send it in through my website, where I have a place for you to send in your photos. So please do that if you can. And as always, I hope to see you in the next tutorial. Bye for now.